Hey, alright, so this is going to be a tribute to M. Night Shyamalan. I'm going to break down M. Night Shyamalan's trailer Old. M. Night, of course, has given us films The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Signs, The Village, Lady in the Water, Split, Glass, and now Old, as well as his series on Apple TV. So I've been a fan of M. Night. I grew up watching his films and they're unique. He falls under the one of the greatest filmmakers of our time. And if this gets out to anyone in his circle or to him, I'd love to come, I guess, work for you in some capacity. I'm finishing up a philosophy major, and I've always loved film, but I don't know how I could ever start with film. So I thought if it's meant to happen, it'll happen organically. So I'm going to break down the trailer. And so what is the title of the film? Well, it's old, right? So MI is going to survey the implications of age. And the concept age is bound up and irremovable from the concept of time, or is it? And so M. Night is going to explore the implications of time as it's bound up with human beings. And as we see that this concept of age or of old and of time, the end, will form a web of concepts that M. Night is going to explore. And the tone of the film is one of a thrilling or of horror, as M. Night has grown increasingly fond of, I think, since the 2010s. All right, so here I thought I was going to use the video, but I guess that's not my style, or maybe I just don't have the time. I just really want to do this. So here I have quotations, verbatim quotations from the trailer. And they are sequential, so they're in order from T1 to T245 or however long the trailer is, these quotations. So I don't know the characters' names. I haven't looked at the cast to see character names. Nevertheless, I can identify the roles of the characters, which is enough to make my point. So, no kids allowed on the beach. Well, the father says this to his two kids. He has a daughter and a son. And this is a joke because, of course, kids are allowed on the beach. They're at some resort or hotel and they're going to this beachfront. The wife says she found it online. So now, what's the concept kids? Is kids a concept? Is it bound up with time? Yes, it is. When we have children, however, those children grow up to be adults. Well, how does this progression happen? It happens only with time. What if time was removed? If you've seen Interstellar, M. Night might have been inspired from the scene of Interstellar where he gets back into the spaceship and he sees his son that aged several years for him, which was just a number of minutes from when he was on the sea floor to when he was back outside the event horizon of the black hole, which had that impact on time, as we know, understand relativity. So that has all sorts of psychological concepts. However, we're going to get some answers. First, I'm going to show the quotations, then I'm going to talk about concepts in the next slide. All right, so what's next? So just remember that. We never leave each other. Nothing separates us. I have italicized nothing here. We never leave each other. The brother and sister say this to each other of the couple that we see in the first sequence. So the sister says this to the brother. Nothing separates us. Well, what is old? What is death? What is age? This is just like Split, the idea of the broken or the more evolved, the pure and impurity breakdown. M. Night is wanting to explore death, age, time, these concepts, and how they are psychologically implicated. And I think he's going to do great. So I'm excited. But so nothing separates us. Well, does death separate us? Well, what if time wasn't parallel but all at once? Does meaning and knowledge break down? How is time related to meaning and knowledge or concepts? We're going to get to that. Okay, so 5 minutes. This quotation is after, and now I can't remember what it was. 5 minutes. I'll come back to it. So the mom says, let's all start slowing down. So she's telling her kids, let's all start slowing down when they're about to approach the beachfront. At least in the trailer, the audio's overlaid. So she's telling her kids, when we speak of meditation, all these exercises, maybe our passions, we want to be in the world. We don't want to think. And thinking is a psychological phenomenon. Thinking, ing, a progressive verb, infinitive verb, is T1, T2, T3. When we enjoy ourselves, we're not in T1, T2, T3. When we're bored, we're tracking time. When we're stressed, we may be tracking time. So the mother's saying, let's all slow down. So M. Night, again, we have, and the editors of the trailer, we have this concept of time and how it is causally implicated in the psychological meaning and development of our lives. So, next quote, whatever is happening to us, it is happening very fast. Again, time. What is happening to us? It's happening very fast. Is it time that we fear, or is it events that we fear? Are events bound up with time, or are they atemporal events? Can I know something only because of time, or can I know something atemporally outside of time? Is logic in time? Is meaning in time, or is it not? Again, all of these quotations are compounding this this dialogue that M. Night wants the patrons of his film to have an internal dialogue. So, and all these characters are interlocutors in this dialogue. And thought is a conversation with yourself. Okay, so there's something happening on the speech. Again, happening, we've got another progressive verb here. Time, T1, T2, T3. There's something happening on this beach. What's happening on this beach? Is it just time then that has made this event? Or would these, if we are just in T1, let's say we're in 1 hour and we're calling that T1, so it's 60 minutes of being on the beach, will nothing happen? Will our children not marry? Will our children not grow old? Will our children not have children of their own? Are those thoughts atemporal? Are they conceptual? They're atemporal, then what's happening on the beach? So there's a message. Now I'm moving away from the philosophical, although it could be. We just don't have enough information. So they're swimming into a coral reef, and they show these ciphers, logical operators, just a language of pictures, and says there's a message. So there's something more in this film that we're not sure about. Namely, what is the cause of this uh, timestamp on this beach, this time acceleration on this beach? Is there like some kind of to give an answer in relativity? It'd have to be something like a black hole, but obviously that's not possible. Nevertheless, there's a hinge on time somewhere around this beach, if we're understanding it from relativity. Nevertheless, for M. Night, this is fiction, he could be doing whatever he wants. But what he can't do is violate logic, and so that's why this is intriguing. So, next quote, we're connected to something bigger. Oh, okay, so what's this thing that we're all connected to that's something bigger? If everybody's aging on this beach, if this, a 6-year-old hits maturity within a number of minutes or something, and she's pregnant, and also what causes the pregnancy, that's where M. Night's taken another jump. Everything seemed to be consistent, and we had another entry in her pregnancy. Was she impregnated? Well, we don't know. from someone on the beach, or was it spontaneous? So we don't know. So some kind of suggestive, you know, uh, non-causal pregnancy, uh, or she could have had sex. So we don't know. So we're here for a reason. So again, I think M. Night, we're on Earth. We're all going to age, and we'll all die. We'll grow and die in this life. Our children will become old and die of their own. And so, nevertheless, we want to give meaning to our lives. So for us, that reason could be different, but to live a good life, the good just means whatever it is to us to be worth living, is to answer the question, this is why I'm here. We're here for a reason. And obviously M. Night's exploring that in a more thrilling and perhaps horrific way. Nevertheless, this is a purely philosophical film, sort of. So now here at the bottom, these are not the utterances of characters. They're not phrases that the characters in a teaser or trailer utter. These are texts overlaid in the trailer that the editors sequences. So it's only, and we have a break, a matter, a break of time. So is life, what's only a matter of time? Well, in one sense, everything's only a matter of time. In another sense, nothing's a matter of time. What is and isn't a matter of time? And how is that psychologically implicated in how we live our lives and what we think about love, sex, death, is what M. Night, however he may want to taint it in his suggestion about the good and the bad, good and evil. That's what he's asking. All right, now let's move into the concepts. So again, time is our main concept in this film. After all, the title is temporally implicated, namely time. So age, and human beings are bound up with time. So we're bound up. We age. Aging is bound up with time from T1 to T2. We have an average lifespan. So this concept time forms the web of subsidiary or secondary concepts. So time, sexuality. The little girl who is 6, all of a sudden is pregnant. Again, we don't know if it's a causal, how she got pregnant. Was it sex or by some other way? So when we think of our children, let's say, we have a 2 or 3-year-old, we're not even thinking about necessarily teaching the child about the birds and the bees, the euphemism about sex. We want them to have fun. Maybe we say, oh, don't touch that, don't touch this. Nevertheless, this child is going to have sex and the conversation will come. Therefore, what is it, the question then that M. Night's exploring in this concept, sexuality, is what is happening when, let's say I left the room, I was just playing with my 2-year-old son or daughter, and I left the room, I was just having fun with them, reading a book, building with blocks. I left the room and I went back in and they were 14. If it's a girl, breasts, if it's a boy, broad shoulders, all the characteristic anatomical features that identify puberty. So would we feel uncomfortable? Now let's look at this trailer. Obviously M. Night is suggesting this, so I will actually go to this scene. What's happening with the father and
Dad, why are you looking at me like that?
So the father looking at her just because she aged all of a sudden a number of times, or is it because she's also a woman and now she has this dimension of sexuality? She is in a point where she could lose her innocence. Children might not are innocent, and how do they become lose their innocence? In many different ways. Nevertheless, by getting hurt and by experiencing evil, and that could be sexuality. It could be anything. And so, but he sees his daughter now as in such a short period of time, whereas these events, which are time bound, are from T1, okay, T2, 2 years old, to T 15 years old, puberty. Now all of a sudden, my child, it's bizarre. Maybe you're uncomfortable. My child has hit puberty. Not only that, they're an adult. My their body, they're an adult, and so your whole perspective and dialogue, right, would change. But why is that? What is going on? Is it really just time? Is the maturation, the progression from T1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, is that really what separates our perspective from our children or not? And now here, this is paramount. We know from the trailer their behavior, extrinsic phenomenon, what we can observe ostensibly, their voice, their tone, their inflection, their vocabulary has stayed the same. So we see this little girl who's now a woman and this boy who's now a man. They've crossed puberty and they still have this, we might say, spirit or the mental capacities of their younger counterparts, so a 6-year-old, etc. Now this is where, by the way, cognitive neuroscience or psychiatry or something or neuropsychology would break down, because if you had a mature brain, right, you should have, but again, that didn't happen, so we just have a bigger brain, but we still have the same behavior. Compare and contrast the genie in the bottle, the girl that was chained to a room and only fed food, and then removed from the chains, her behavior. Nevertheless, I can't deal with that here. Nevertheless, it's an analogy worth considering. So, okay, then what is it really happening when we age? What really happening is the oak tree in the seed? It is. Would it be bizarre though if we planted the seed and then all of a sudden the oak tree grew? There's so now I want to get more philosophical because this will answer some of the questions, but just these questions and how they're answered, M. Night, as any filmmaker, is going to leave them up to interpretation a little bit, which is good. And so I have a hunch that M. Night will leave this up open to interpretation, like Darren Aronofsky does in his films. M. Night may actually leave this more into interpretation than any other film, but maybe not. I could be wrong. So let's talk about concepts a priori and a posteriori. A priori is that which is written on the soul, as you were. So I don't need to go out into the world to learn 2 plus 2 equals 4. Well, we say, well, doesn't a child learn that? Doesn't a child discover it? How does he know what to do when he hears the word 2? How does he know what to do with the word when we point at something? How does he know how to interpret pointing? That is an a priori concept. There are just logically atomistic structures to the world that are irreducible and indivisible. And explanation comes to an end at some point, and it comes to an end when I ask, how does the child know what to do with the word that I just uttered? So those are a priori concepts. Then we have a posteriori, things I might need to go out into the world and to see. I might know a building, I can know a building a priori, but can I know this building ostensibly? The one with blue brick, red shutters on Fifth Avenue. If I didn't have a picture, I could use a picture. Anyways, I'd have to go out into the world, use sense perception in order to know that this is the house, right? So, truth values. So some truth values are verificationistic, so I have to go out in the world to confirm them, and some of them are just known. So you and I now have concepts of a child and an adult. That's atemporal. It's not in time. To give an example, so if I talk about the falling of a pen from T1 to T2, T3, the falling of the pen can be measured in time, T1, T2, T3, but that the pen has fallen is a that the pen has fallen is a priori a logical fact. So it is atemporal. So there's certainly these concepts that are atemporal that M. Night is going to explore, and it'll stump us, right? Because at what point does a posteriori break down and fall on a priori? And as an artist, you could do all sorts of interesting things with this, which M. Night is doing, but I think it's going to be more implicated in human nature, namely sexuality, psychology, pregnancy, at least how the trailer is framing. So I'm excited. Split is a wonderful film. M. Night did some really great things, explored some really great ideas that are unique to me, at least in the way he's framed them. And I'm excited to see what he has to do here again. So if you want to see another video, please let me know. Please comment below. I know this has been a more abstract or in-depth treatise. Nevertheless, I'm a philosophy major, but I love film, and I thought I would like to do this. This would be something that was pretty cool. So, and yeah, that's all I got. M. Night, if you hear from this, you're happy with what you hear, I'd love to come work for you too. All right, take care.